Right before you fall asleep, your mind unlocks its most powerful secret, a doorway to rewriting your reality. And in this video, stay with me until the end, because I'll give you a complete technique you can use tonight to shift timelines in your sleep. But first, you need to understand the basics. The constant noise of your conscious awareness, the part of you that analyzes, doubts, and overthinks, starts to quiet down. In those moments, the subconscious rises to the surface. The subconscious is the realm where patterns are stored, where your core beliefs live, and where the invisible architecture of your reality is built. What makes this transition so powerful is that the subconscious is most open, most impressionable, just before you slip fully into sleep. It is here that you are no longer bound by the rigidity of waking logic. Instead, you are entering the fertile soil where suggestion, imagery, and emotion take root. This is not a new idea. Ancient traditions understood it well. Yogic practices called this state Yoga Nidra, a place between waking and sleep where the mind is still yet alive with possibility. Modern science now calls it the hypnagogic state, a neurological doorway where brainwaves shift from the busy beta of wakefulness into the slower alpha and theta patterns of deep receptivity. In these states, the veil between conscious intention and subconscious programming thins. What you impress here is carried inward, like a seed pushed into rich earth, ready to bloom. Think about it. Throughout your day, your thoughts are scattered. You might try affirmations, but they compete with endless distractions. Before sleep, though, there is no competition. The conscious guard lowers, and what you choose to focus on flows directly into the place where your reality is scripted. Neuroscientists studying memory consolidation have shown that the moments before sleep are critical for determining what gets encoded into long-term memory. But beyond memory, there is belief. If you fall asleep replaying fears, your subconscious takes them as truth and builds around them. If you fall asleep rehearsing visions of abundance, love, or peace, the subconscious accepts that instead. This is why so many spiritual and scientific traditions alike point to the moments before sleep as sacred. They are not throwaway minutes. They are the architect's desk where blueprints of your future are drawn. The timelines you step into are not chosen during the noise of midday. They are chosen here, when you are soft, when you are open, when your mind is closest to the quantum field itself. Every image you allow in, every word you let repeat, every feeling you permit to linger just before you drift off becomes a signal. And that signal doesn't disappear into nothingness. It radiates into the field, aligning you with the reality that matches it. This is the sleep gateway. Most people pass through it unconsciously, carrying worry, regret, or distraction into the night. But those who understand its power step through it deliberately, like a threshold. They decide which reality they will water in their subconscious. They choose their timeline. If you feel this truth resonate, pause and subscribe. This space exists to guide you deeper into your shift, and I don't want you to miss what unfolds next. Across cultures and centuries, the hours before sleep were never treated as ordinary. They were sacred, a space between worlds, a place where the visible and invisible could meet. Yogic sutras spoke of this threshold as fertile ground for shaping consciousness. Practices of Yoga Nidra, often called yogic sleep, guided the practitioner into a state where the body was fully at rest but the awareness remained awake. In this liminal state, seeds of intention could be planted deep into the subconscious soil, free from the resistance of the waking mind. Yogis understood that what you carried into sleep would echo through your dreams and emerge in your reality. They trained their minds to slip into this state with precision, repeating mantras or visualizing outcomes, trusting that the subconscious would receive them and build with them. Tibetan dream yoga carried this even further. Practitioners believed that nighttime was not simply for rest, but for liberation. By training themselves to become conscious in dreams, they could rewrite karmic patterns, rehearse states of compassion, and dissolve attachments that bound them in waking life. They did not see the dream state as less real, but as another layer of reality where transformation was possible. What they carried into sleep was intentional, designed to shape the landscape of their inner world, which in turn shaped the outer one. To them, falling asleep unconsciously was a wasted opportunity. Entering sleep with awareness was a doorway to mastery. In Egypt, priests and initiates practiced what was called temple sleep. They would lie within sacred spaces, surrounded by symbols and guided chants, with the intention of receiving visions or healing in the night. The boundary between waking prayer and dreaming revelation was thin. Sleep was not an end, but a continuation of spiritual work. The same thread runs through indigenous traditions worldwide. Many tribes held that dreams were not random. They were messages, guides, and even rehearsals of the future. What you dreamed of, and what you carried into dream, could reveal destiny or shift it. To prepare, rituals were performed at dusk, smoke cleansing, chants, or storytelling that impressed meaning into the subconscious mind before it drifted off. Modern people often overlook this wisdom, rushing into sleep with screens, noise, and distraction, but ancient lineages never ignored it. They saw pre-sleep rituals as one of the most powerful tools for transformation, because at night the conscious defenses soften. The mind becomes pliable, receptive, alive with possibility. They knew that repeating words of power, holding images of healing, or surrendering to divine symbols before rest would echo through the night and emerge as change by morning. What all these traditions had in common was an understanding of timing. They saw the minutes before sleep as a portal, not an afterthought, but the very point where identity could be reshaped and destiny could be rewritten. If you begin to see this time not as a blur before rest, but as the sacred threshold it truly is, you will realize you are participating in an ancient practice every night. The question is, will you stumble through it unconsciously, or will you step through it with intention, as they once did? Science has begun to confirm what the ancients always intuited. The hours of sleep are not passive, but deeply formative. Neuroscience reveals that sleep is one of the brain's most powerful tools for editing reality. Within the cycles of slow-wave and REM sleep, the brain is not shutting down, but reorganizing, stitching together experiences, and consolidating memory. Each night, your brain rehearses, strengthens, and rewires. What you give it to work with before you drift off becomes the raw material for this nocturnal editing. Slow-wave sleep, often called deep sleep, is the stage where your brain clears away clutter. It prunes unnecessary connections and strengthens essential ones, creating sharper patterns of thought. If you spend your last waking moments immersed in stress, doubt, or fear, those impressions can ride into deep sleep and be woven into the circuits of tomorrow. But if you end the day rehearsing gratitude, imagining success, or focusing on a clear intention, your brain will amplify and solidify those pathways instead. This is not wishful thinking. It is biology. The hippocampus and neocortex, two regions responsible for learning and memory, literally replay the day's events, choosing which to keep and which to discard. The signal you send before sleep is disproportionately powerful in deciding what stays. Then comes REM sleep, a stage marked by vivid dreams and heightened brain activity. Here, the brain integrates emotional experiences, linking them to memory networks and problem-solving abilities. Scientists have found that REM is where creativity flourishes. Seemingly disconnected ideas connect, and new solutions emerge. Many breakthroughs in science, art, and invention have arrived in dreams, only possible because REM reorganizes the mind into novel configurations. When you consciously prime yourself before sleep, by visualizing goals, affirming new beliefs, or mentally rehearsing outcomes, you hand your brain a blueprint that it can amplify in REM. The dreams may not always show it literally, but the underlying neural coding shifts toward alignment. In one study, participants who mentally practiced piano sequences before sleep improved nearly as much as those who physically practiced, their brains treating imagination and action as overlapping realities. Another study on athletes showed that visualizing movements before bed led to better performance, as the brain rehearsed and encoded them during the night. Even medical research on trauma suggests that what is replayed before sleep can shape how memories are stored, whether they amplify fear or dissolve into resilience. The principle is the same. The subconscious mind, most permeable before and during sleep, acts as a receiver and amplifier of whatever signal you send. The implication is profound. Each night, you stand at a fork in the road. Will you carry into sleep the noise of the day, or will you seed the mind with what you want to see flourish? Neuroscience affirms that this choice is not symbolic, but structural. The circuits you strengthen tonight become the reality you wake into tomorrow. Sleep is not simply recovery. It is rehearsal, reprogramming, and a hidden workshop where identity itself is sculpted. Hypnagogia is the silent bridge between waking and sleeping, a fleeting threshold where the mind softens, barriers dissolve, and imagination takes the reins. You've likely touched this state without even naming it. The drifting moment when your body feels heavy, images flicker behind closed eyes, and your thoughts slip into dreamlike patterns. This in-between realm is not just a quirk of biology. It is a fertile ground for creation, a portal where the subconscious mind is wide open and where ideas, impressions, and beliefs can slip through unguarded. Throughout history, great thinkers have tapped into hypnagogia deliberately. Thomas Edison would hold metal balls in his hands as he sat in a chair drifting toward sleep. As his grip loosened, the balls would fall, waking him before he tipped fully into unconsciousness. In those brief moments, he reported flashes of insight, images, and solutions that came from nowhere. Salvador Dali used a similar trick, keeping a key in his hand so he could wake as soon as it dropped. He called the visions from this state slumber with a key, a creative wellspring that informed much of his surreal art. These figures understood what science is only beginning to confirm. Hypnagogia opens a door to unfiltered creativity, a landscape where the conscious and subconscious meet. In this state, logic loosens its grip. Words can merge with images, memories with possibilities. Instead of following the rigid pathways of waking thought, the mind meanders, sampling combinations that would normally be dismissed as irrational. Yet it is precisely this looseness that allows breakthroughs to emerge. The subconscious, with its vast store of impressions, can finally speak without the censorship of the critical mind. When you linger in hypnagogia, you are listening to the raw language of imagination before it calcifies into structure. What makes this state so potent for shifting timelines is its permeability. Beliefs introduced here have a direct line to the subconscious, bypassing the skeptical filters of full wakefulness. If you drift into hypnagogia while rehearsing fear, doubt, or limitation, those patterns can seep deeper. But if you approach it with intentional imagery, seeing yourself thriving, affirming abundance, or embodying the version of you that already exists in potential, the mind accepts it more readily. You are planting seeds in soil that is especially rich. Modern research suggests that hypnagogia is marked by a shift in brainwave activity, particularly an increase in theta waves. Theta has long been associated with creativity, intuition, and deep states of meditation. In this liminal stage, the mind is both relaxed and receptive, alert yet unguarded. This explains why solutions to problems, artistic inspiration, and even entirely new worldviews often surface here. It is not random. It is the subconscious presenting raw material for transformation. Each night, you pass through hypnagogia, whether you notice it or not. The question is whether you drift aimlessly, letting the remnants of the day spill into your subconscious, or whether you step deliberately into that state with a vision in hand. Used with awareness, hypnagogia is not just a threshold, it is an instrument. It is the space where you can whisper a new story to your subconscious and have it echo back into your waking life. Every night as you prepare to drift into sleep, you are not just closing a day, you are programming the one to come. The emotional state you carry into those final moments acts like a lens, coloring the entire experience your subconscious will hold overnight. Fear, doubt, trust, excitement. These emotions do not simply vanish as your eyes close. They sink into the subconscious, magnified by the quiet openness of the sleeping mind. What you feel is what your inner world takes as real, and in the field where possibility is infinite, emotion acts as the amplifier. Think of your subconscious as the soil of creation. Thoughts are the seeds, but emotions are the water and sunlight that determine whether those seeds flourish or wither. Go to sleep with fear dominating your system, and that fear nourishes itself. sprouting in subtle ways in your waking reality. Go to sleep with gratitude or confidence, and those emotions energize the visions you want to see bloom. Science has long shown that the brain is not passive at night. It is active, reorganizing and consolidating. What emotions accompany that process dictate whether the reorganizing reinforces limitation or possibility. Neurologically, emotions are not just feelings, they are biochemical signals. They flood your body with hormones and neurotransmitters that affect memory formation, immune function, and even the patterns of brain waves that dominate sleep. Cortisol, the stress hormone, imprints vigilance and scarcity. Oxytocin and dopamine, linked to trust and reward, imprint openness and expansion. When you carry those emotional imprints into sleep, your brain continues weaving them into the architecture of your subconscious. This is why worry often creates restless nights, and why gratitude rituals often lead to deeper, more restorative sleep. But beyond the neurological explanation, emotions also vibrate through the quantum field. They are not private, contained signals. They are frequencies that broadcast who you believe you are and what you are ready to receive. Fear contracts your signal, broadcasting survival rather than creation. Excitement and trust expand it, announcing readiness to step into new opportunities. When you fall asleep while rehearsing limitation, the field mirrors it back. When you fall asleep rehearsing abundance, the field aligns itself with that signal. The key is not to deny emotions, but to become deliberate in the ones you choose to take into sleep. Acknowledge the fear, but don't carry it to bed as your final imprint. Pause to shift into a higher state, gratitude, joy, or even a quiet trust that you are held in something larger. This doesn't require hours of ritual. A few minutes of breath work, journaling, or mentally rehearsing a vision of yourself already living your desired reality can recalibrate your system. In that recalibration, the subconscious takes its cue and begins weaving the new signal into its nighttime processes. Imagine the difference. One version of you falls asleep replaying arguments and failures, waking to another day that echoes that vibration. Another version of you falls asleep feeling the gratitude of already receiving, and wakes in a reality that reflects that energy. Which version is more likely to align with the timeline you desire? The answer lies in the emotions you choose as your final imprint before surrendering to sleep. Every night, as you lie down and close your eyes, your mind doesn't simply turn off. Instead, it loops. Thoughts replay, assumptions recycle, and the beliefs you've carried all day begin to echo into the stillness. This is why the beliefs you bring to bed matter. They don't stay passive. They become the blueprint your subconscious accepts as real. If you fall asleep thinking money is scarce, relationships are difficult, or success is out of reach, those ideas find fertile ground in the openness of your mind. Overnight, they root themselves more deeply, subtly reinforcing the very patterns you hope to change. Limiting beliefs are rarely loud or dramatic. They whisper in the background. I'll never have enough. I'm not good enough. Things don't work out for me. Because they feel familiar, you may not even notice them. But as long as they go unchallenged, they function like anchors, pulling you back to the same outcomes, no matter how hard you strive. The power of the pre-sleep state is that it offers you a chance to identify these beliefs and begin releasing them before they sink further into your identity. Psychologists and neuroscientists have long shown that the subconscious mind is most impressionable in states where the critical, analytical mind relaxes, precisely the threshold you cross before sleep. This is why affirmations, intentions, or even simple self-reflection carry disproportionate weight at night. You are not just thinking positive thoughts. You are communicating directly with the layer of the mind that programs how you perceive yourself and the world. The patterns you reinforce in that space do not simply shape dreams, they shape waking life. Releasing limiting beliefs doesn't always mean confronting them with force. Sometimes it begins with acknowledgement. Notice what thoughts replay as you lie in bed. Do you find yourself worrying about bills? Doubting your worth? Reliving mistakes? Each of these is a belief revealing itself. Instead of letting it loop unchallenged, pause and ask, is this the story I want to carry into tomorrow? By naming it, you bring it out of the shadows. By replacing it with a conscious alternative, you begin the process of reprogramming. This can be as simple as shifting from "I'll never have enough" to "I am open to abundance," from "I'm not good enough" to "I am becoming the version of me who is." These replacements are not wishful thinking, they are seeds. The moment before sleep is when those seeds are most likely to take root. Over time, as your subconscious accepts them, they stop feeling like affirmations and start feeling like identity. The invitation is to become deliberate about the beliefs you choose to fall asleep with. Instead of letting old, unhelpful stories anchor deeper, make space for new ones that align with the life you want to live. Tonight, as you rest, ask yourself, what belief is no longer serving me? And what new truth am I ready to plant in its place? And what beliefs do you need to reprogram? Let me know in the comments. Your declaration is the first step to shifting. Quantum theory is often spoken of as science so strange it borders on mystical. But when you look closer, its principles mirror the very mechanics of manifestation. At its core, the quantum field represents pure potential, every possibility existing at once until attention collapses it into form. This isn't just physics confined to particles in a lab. It's a metaphor, and perhaps a literal description, of how reality itself responds to you. Consider superposition. A particle doesn't exist in one state or another until it is observed. It holds multiple probabilities simultaneously. In much the same way, your life is not locked into a single outcome. At any given moment, you are surrounded by countless versions of yourself. Wealthy, thriving, fulfilled, or stuck, struggling, and limited. Which version you align with depends on what you give your focus to. Your attention is not passive. It functions like the observer effect, collapsing infinite potentials into the single reality you experience. This is why your state matters so much, especially before sleep. When you drift into that threshold where conscious resistance fades, your attention becomes even more powerful. The images, feelings, and assumptions you hold in that window act as signals to the field. They instruct the universe which timeline to collapse into the physical. If you carry fear and scarcity to bed, you strengthen those probabilities. If you carry trust, gratitude, and the energy of abundance, you reinforce timelines where those qualities are already true. Modern science shows how expectation influences perception. Double-slit experiments demonstrate that observation changes outcomes at the quantum level. Translating this into your own life, it means your awareness is not neutral. You aren't merely watching reality. You are helping shape it. Every thought and emotion acts like a beam of focus, and where you point that beam determines what materializes. The quantum field is a mirror, but it doesn't reflect words alone. It reflects the coherence of your inner state. This is why rituals before sleep have held such power across traditions. It's not about forcing outcomes. It's about attuning your frequency to the version of reality you wish to experience. In the quantum model, all versions already exist. Your role is not to create them from scratch, but to shift your alignment toward the one that matches your chosen identity. That shift happens not through struggle, but through coherence. The harmony of thought, feeling, and belief. Before sleep, your attention softens, your body relaxes, and the subconscious becomes more accessible. This is the perfect moment to hold steady the version of yourself you wish to embody, not as a distant wish, but as a living truth already unfolding. The quantum field doesn't measure time the way you do. It responds to vibration in the present moment. The more consistently you enter sleep with alignment, the more naturally the field mirrors it back. You are not a passive observer. You are a participant in the dance of reality itself, and every night as you close your eyes, you hold the power to choose which version of you steps forward into the day to come. Your body is not separate from your consciousness. The rhythms of your biology set the stage for how receptive you are to new beliefs, especially in the moments before sleep. One of the most overlooked aspects of manifestation is physiology. Circadian rhythms, hormones, and brain states all play crucial roles in determining how easily your subconscious integrates what you feed it at night. Circadian rhythms are the body's natural clock, a 24-hour cycle that influences everything from energy to mood to sleep. When your rhythm is in balance, your system knows when to wind down and your brain naturally transitions into restorative states. This alignment doesn't just promote good rest, it creates fertile ground for shifting timelines. If your rhythm is disrupted, whether by irregular schedules, excess light at night, or overstimulation before bed, the mind resists dropping into the deeper states where reprogramming can occur. Hormones like melatonin and cortisol act as gatekeepers. Melatonin, often called the sleep hormone, rises in the evening when darkness signals to your body that it's time to rest. It supports the onset of sleep and promotes the calm that allows your subconscious to open. Cortisol, on the other hand, is the stress hormone. Elevated cortisol late at night keeps the body in alertness, preventing deep rest and making it harder to access the states where belief change happens. By managing light exposure, calming your nervous system, and establishing consistent routines, you allow melatonin to rise and cortisol to fall, creating the optimal internal environment. Brainwaves also shift as you move towards sleep. Beta waves dominate during the day when the mind is active, analyzing and solving problems. But as night approaches and relaxation deepens, alpha and theta waves emerge. These slower rhythms are associated with calm, imagination, and suggestibility. Theta, in particular, is linked to the dreamlike state where subconscious material is most accessible. This is why the period just before sleep is so powerful. Your brain waves naturally soften into frequencies where new ideas can bypass resistance and root themselves. Sleep hygiene is more than a wellness trend. It's a direct way to prepare your mind for alignment. Limiting screen time before bed reduces blue light that suppresses melatonin. Creating a calm, dark, and quiet environment signals safety to your nervous system. Gentle rituals like journaling, breathing exercises, or gratitude practices act as cues, telling the body and mind it's time to let go of the day and enter a receptive state. Even temperature plays a role, as a slightly cooler room helps the body ease into deeper sleep cycles. When you care for your circadian rhythms and hormonal balance, you do more than improve your health. You sharpen the gateway into the quantum field. A rested, aligned body amplifies your capacity to shift beliefs because it supports the very states of consciousness where reprogramming occurs. Every detail, from the light in your room to the timing of your rest, becomes part of the foundation for transformation. Your biology is not an obstacle to manifestation. It's an ally. When you honor its rhythms, your body, mind, and field align, creating the perfect conditions for new realities to take root. Modern psychology has been uncovering what ancient traditions already suspected. The moments before sleep are uniquely powerful for shaping belief and identity. Research on affirmations, autosuggestion, and subliminal priming confirms that the human mind is most open to influence when relaxed and repetitive input is present. This is not wishful thinking. It is evidence-based psychology. Affirmations have long been studied in the field of self-concept and behavior change. When you repeat a positive statement about yourself, the conscious mind might initially resist, arguing back with doubts. But repetition, especially in moments of lowered critical thinking like those before sleep, begins to bypass that resistance. Over time, the subconscious adopts the repeated suggestion as familiar, and familiarity is often mistaken for truth. Studies on self-affirmation show improvements in stress resilience, performance, and emotional regulation, proving that the words we feed ourselves alter both perception and behavior. Autosuggestion goes one step further. It's not just repeating a phrase, it's programming the mind with intention. The French psychologist Émile Coué popularized this concept in the early 20th century, using phrases like, "Every day in every way, I'm getting better and better." His patients experienced remarkable shifts in health and well-being by rehearsing these phrases before sleep and upon waking. Modern cognitive science now supports his insights. What we suggest to ourselves consistently, especially in softened states of consciousness, reshapes neural pathways and behavior patterns. Subliminal messaging taps into another fascinating layer. Experiments have shown that the brain can register and respond to words, images, and sounds that don't reach conscious awareness. Subliminal priming studies reveal that even fleeting exposures, milliseconds too brief to consciously notice, can influence decisions, preferences, and even motivation. The effect is amplified when the conscious mind is tired, relaxed, or less vigilant, such as in the moments before sleep. This doesn't mean hidden messages alone will change your life, but it demonstrates how the subconscious is always absorbing more than we realize. The critical factor across all these methods is repetition plus relaxation. Repetition alone may feel empty if your conscious defenses are high. Relaxation alone might create openness, but without direction. When combined, when you repeatedly feed the mind with intentional suggestions in a relaxed state, the result is deep integration. This is why the evening is so important. As the body prepares for rest and brain waves slow into alpha and theta, your mind is primed to accept new inputs without as much filtering or resistance. Think of it like planting seeds. During the busy day, the soil of the mind is too dry and scattered. But at night, just before sleep, the soil becomes soft, fertile, and ready. The seeds of repeated affirmation or suggestion can sink deeper, where they will grow into beliefs, choices, and eventually, reality itself. Modern evidence does not dismiss the mystical. It confirms it. What you whisper to yourself in the quiet moments before sleep is not small. It is programming your subconscious, rewiring your brain, and aligning you with timelines that reflect the story you choose to tell. Visualization before sleep is one of the most powerful techniques for shifting timelines because it combines the science of the mind with the openness of the subconscious. When the body begins to relax and brain waves slow down, images and scenarios can slip into the deeper layers of awareness more easily. This is not just theory. It is a practice supported by decades of research in psychology, sports performance, and even sleep studies. In sports psychology, visualization is not a soft idea but a cornerstone of training. Athletes rehearse their movements mentally before they execute them physically. Studies show that visualizing a free throw, a sprint, or a dive activates many of the same neural circuits as performing it in real life. The brain does not fully distinguish between vividly imagined action and physical action. This means that if you see yourself succeeding in your mind with enough clarity and emotion, you are training your brain and body to expect that outcome. Before sleep, when resistance is low and receptivity is high, that training sinks in even deeper. Lucid dreaming research has added another layer to this understanding. When people practice visualization before sleep, they increase the likelihood of becoming aware within their dreams. This is because the mind continues rehearsing and replaying what it focused on right before entering sleep. Dream incubation practices, used in Tibetan dream yoga and modern lucid dreaming studies, show that setting an intention and visualizing a desired experience before bed can lead to vivid dream encounters that reinforce belief and expectation. These nighttime experiences blur the line between imagination and reality, creating stronger emotional imprints that guide waking life. Behavioral science also confirms the power of nighttime visualization. When individuals visualize themselves acting in alignment with their goals, speaking confidently, choosing healthier foods, or succeeding in interviews, they are more likely to follow through in waking life. This is not magic, but it feels magical because the subconscious mind begins to accept the visualized outcome as already real. By the time you wake up, the imagined scenario is not just a picture in your head. It becomes a subtle instruction manual for how to move, respond, and believe. The key is vividness and emotion. Visualization is not about casually daydreaming. It is about immersing yourself in the reality you want as if it is happening now. What do you see? What do you hear? What do you feel in your body? If it's money, imagine the texture of bills in your hands or the numbers in your account. If it's love, imagine the warmth of connection, the laughter, the touch. The more sensory detail you bring in, the more the subconscious accepts the scenario as lived truth. At night, the subconscious is like wet clay. What you impress upon it through visualization hardens into shape while you sleep. You wake not only with new neural pathways, but also with a shift in energy that attracts aligned opportunities. Visualization before sleep primes both mind and field, making the desired timeline not a distant dream, but the most natural path forward. Resistance is the invisible weight that follows many people into sleep. You may go to bed with affirmations, visualizations, or intentions, but if fear, doubt, or unprocessed emotions linger underneath, they often shape the landscape of your subconscious through the night. Sleep magnifies whatever energy you carry into it. This is why clearing resistance during the day is just as important as setting intentions before bed. A clean state creates a clear channel for the subconscious to absorb new beliefs without interference. Fear is one of the most common forms of resistance. Fear of failure, fear of success, fear of judgment. It doesn't matter which form it takes. It creates friction between your conscious desires and your subconscious acceptance. If you try to impress a new belief onto your mind while fear still vibrates strongly, the two signals clash, and the subconscious tends to follow the louder one. Fear often wins because it is tied to survival. To soften this, practices like emotional freedom techniques, or tapping, are powerful. By gently tapping on acupressure points while acknowledging your fears, you release the body's stored tension and neutralize the emotional charge. This creates space for new programming to land without resistance pushing back. Self-sabotage is another face of resistance. It often appears as procrastination, distraction, or patterns that derail your progress just when things are moving forward. These behaviors are not random. They are rooted in subconscious beliefs that feel threatened by change. Journaling can be an effective tool here. By writing out the patterns you notice and asking yourself, "What belief am I protecting by doing this?" you reveal the hidden script underneath. Once identified, you can challenge it, reframe it, and replace it with a belief that serves your new direction. For example, instead of "I'll fail if I try," you might write, "Every attempt brings me closer to alignment." Over time, the subconscious adopts the reframe, reducing the grip of sabotage. Doubt is subtler but just as potent. It whispers, "What if this doesn't work?" Doubt doesn't need to scream. It only needs to plant hesitation. The way to counter doubt is not to fight it, but to build evidence for the opposite. During the day, keep track of small synchronicities, moments of alignment, or proof that your intentions are already influencing your reality. Recording them creates a feedback loop. When you review these signs before bed, your subconscious receives reinforcement that your shift is real, weakening the pull of doubt. The goal is not to eliminate every trace of resistance, but to reduce its charge so it no longer dominates your inner landscape. By tending to these layers during the day, through EFT, journaling, or evidence collecting, you arrive at night with a mind more open, calm, and receptive. In that state, your pre-sleep rituals are no longer battling hidden obstacles. Instead, they flow smoothly into the subconscious, allowing you to sleep as an ally to your transformation, rather than a battleground for conflicting signals. A nightly ritual is not about complexity, it is about signaling to your subconscious that the day is closing and a new state of being is about to begin. Ritual is how you prime your inner world to receive, how you step across the invisible threshold into deeper alignment. When you create a consistent practice before sleep, you are teaching both your mind and the quantum field that you are intentional, that you are no longer drifting unconsciously into the night, but entering with purpose. The first element of a ritual is the environment. Your space holds energy, and if it is cluttered, noisy, or overstimulating, that energy bleeds into your subconscious. Begin by keeping your sleep space clean and intentional. Dim the lights, clear away distractions, and let the room itself become a signal of peace. Even small actions, a candle lit, a lamp turned low, a blanket folded neatly, communicate to your psyche that this is sacred time. The environment doesn't need to be extravagant. It simply needs to feel calm and intentional enough that your body recognizes the transition into stillness. Next comes the posture of your body. The way you hold yourself matters because the subconscious responds to physical cues. If you enter sleep hunched over, tense, or restless, You are rehearsing contraction. Instead, lie down or sit in a relaxed, open posture. Let your shoulders soften. Let your hands rest in a way that feels receptive rather than clenched. This is a small but profound shift. Your body tells your mind that it is safe to release and to receive. Breath is the bridge between the conscious and the subconscious, between the body and the field. Before sleep, let your breath slow naturally. A simple rhythm, inhale for a count of 4, exhale for a count of 6, gently activates the parasympathetic system, easing you into calm. As the breath lengthens, the body understands that it no longer needs to hold the burdens of the day. Each exhale is a letting go. Each inhale is an invitation for something new. Intention is the final and most vital layer. Ritual without intention is empty movement. Once the body is calm, once the environment is aligned, once the breath is opened, the moment arrives to set your direction. Speak inwardly or softly. Tonight, I align with the version of me who already lives my desired reality. This statement doesn't need to be elaborate. What matters is that it is clear, specific, and emotionally true for you. You are not asking or begging. You are declaring alignment with a frequency that already exists. Night after night, this sequence, environment, posture, breath, intention, becomes an anchor. The repetition imprints the subconscious, signaling that you are preparing for something beyond ordinary rest. Each part of the ritual tells your psyche and the field that you are ready. You are not drifting into sleep by accident. You are stepping into it as a deliberate gateway. This practice is the preparation for the deeper technique that will come later, the foundation upon which the shift itself is built. This is the practice you have been preparing for. The full technique that brings together everything explained so far and allows you to step into a new timeline while you sleep. Think of it as the culmination of environment, posture, breath, and intention, woven into a sequence that your subconscious will carry through the night. It does not take long. It does not need effort. What matters is presence. Begin with breath. Lie down comfortably, let your body settle, and close your eyes. Inhale slowly for 4 counts. Exhale for 6. Do this until your body begins to feel heavier, until the mind softens and the muscles release. This extended exhale signals to your nervous system that the day is over and safety is here. The breath is your entry point into the field. Next, set the intention clearly. In your mind, say, "Tonight I align with the timeline where my desired reality is already true." You may phrase it in your own words, but let it be simple and direct. You are not asking, you are declaring. You are choosing the version of yourself that already exists in the quantum field. Now move into visualization. Imagine yourself living that reality. See the details of it. The home, the relationships, the work, the health, the money. Whatever feels most alive for you. Don't strain to force an image. Allow impressions to surface naturally. Focus on the feeling more than the picture. What does it feel like to already live as that version? Confidence, joy, peace, expansion? Let that emotional frequency fill your body until it feels like the most natural thing in the world. Once the visualization feels real, add release. On each exhale, silently let go of the old self, old doubts, old scarcity, old patterns. You don't need to push them away. Simply watch them drift like smoke, dissolving as you breathe out. On each inhale, draw in the reality you've chosen, as though the air itself is coated with your new timeline. Breath becomes the rhythm of letting go and receiving. Now comes the affirmational script. As you relax deeper, repeat softly within, "It is already mine. I am already living it. Tonight, my subconscious carries me fully into alignment. I wake in the reality where this is true." These phrases are not wishful thinking. They are anchors. By looping them gently, you imprint them into the receptive layer of your mind, bypassing resistance. Finally, surrender. Stop trying. Trust the process. Let your last thoughts before sleep be steeped in certainty, not effort. The shift is not about pushing or proving. It is about aligning so fully that sleep becomes the bridge into the version of you who has already arrived. This is the technique. Breath to enter, intention to choose, visualization to feel, release to clear, affirmation to anchor, and surrender to seal. Tonight, as you practice, know that you are not waiting for change. You are stepping into it. When you wake, you will already be closer to the timeline you declared. The first moments of dawn are not just the beginning of another day, they are the continuation of the shift that began in the night. When you wake, your mind is still tender, still porous, still close to the dream state where your subconscious has been reorganizing itself. What you choose to do with those minutes determines whether the new timeline you seeded takes root or fades back into a forgotten possibility. Think of morning as a reinforcement zone. The slate is not blank, it is wet clay, and your touch shapes it. As your eyes open, resist the urge to reach immediately for your phone, for distractions, for the weight of yesterday's patterns. Instead, pause. Let the silence be your ally. Feel your breath, and notice the subtle shift in your body, how it carries traces of the state you cultivated before sleep. Ask yourself quietly, who did I wake up as today? This question is not rhetorical. It is an invitation for your mind to align with the new identity you declared in the night. Journaling at this time amplifies the effect. Keep a notebook by your bed, and without judgment, write down fragments of dreams, feelings, images, or even single words that linger. Often, the subconscious speaks in symbols rather than logic, and recording them helps you integrate the message. If you dreamed of doors, rivers, or flights, these may be metaphors for the transition your inner self is making. Writing them down gives them space to land in waking life. Beyond dream recall, journaling can also serve as a declaration. Write in the present tense, as though the timeline you chose is already here. I am living in abundance. I am confident in my new role. I am surrounded by love. These statements are not affirmations in the abstract sense. They are reinforcement commands. They tell your nervous system and subconscious that the reality seated at night is not a passing fantasy. It is the foundation of your day. Morning check-ins can be as simple as noticing alignment. Did you feel lighter upon waking? Did a synchronicity appear quickly in your awareness? A message, a number, a call? The act of noticing is itself reinforcement. It tells your brain to filter for evidence of the shift, and soon your days become a feedback loop of confirmation. Breath also matters here. A few conscious inhales and exhales upon waking can bridge the gap between the dream body and the waking self. Each breath grounds the shift deeper, pulling it into your cells, into your bloodstream, into your lived reality. The essence of this practice is stabilization. Sleep does not merely end when you wake. It continues to ripple into the day by giving attention to your first moments, by journaling, noticing, breathing, and declaring. You stabilize the new frequency. Each morning becomes not just another sunrise, but another anchor point for the reality you have chosen. In this way, dawn becomes the echo of night's work, and together they form the rhythm of your transformation. Shifting is not meant to be a one-time experiment or a fleeting practice reserved for special nights. The true transformation comes when it becomes a way of living, a nightly rhythm that your mind, body, and soul recognize as natural. When you make it a habit, you no longer ask if it works. You live inside the results. Every night becomes an opportunity to step deeper into the timeline you've chosen, and every morning becomes a continuation of that reality. Think of it like building muscle. A single workout can spark change, but consistent repetition rewires the body. The same principle applies to the subconscious. Each night before sleep, when you choose to align your emotions, release resistance, and declare your vision, you are lifting the weight of old programming and strengthening the neural circuits of your new identity. Over time, this doesn't just feel like practice, it feels like who you are. The key is steadiness. Life will try to pull you back into old loops, stress, doubt, external noise. But when shifting is a habit, those moments no longer derail you. Instead, They remind you to return to your ritual. You already know the path. Prepare your mind, settle into your breath, hold your vision, and let sleep carry you into the field. This repetition teaches your subconscious that abundance, love, and success are not temporary sparks, but permanent wiring. Identity is built through repetition. When you tell yourself each night, "I am already living it," the subconscious accepts it as fact. When you wake and reinforce it in the morning, you seal it further. Soon, the gap between who you were and who you are becoming dissolves. You don't wait for external proof. You embody the shift, and then the proof surrounds you as synchronicities, opportunities, and outcomes. Living the shift also means carrying its energy into the day. Nightly practice sets the stage, but the way you think, speak, and act during waking hours becomes the reinforcement loop. If you visualized abundance before sleep, speak as though it is already yours in the day. If you felt peace in the hypnagogic state, make choices that align with that peace while awake. In this way, you are not practicing in fragments. You are building a whole new lifestyle. Over time, what once felt extraordinary becomes ordinary. You stop seeking signs because you are the sign. Your consistency turns shifting from a mystical concept into your baseline way of being. The technique no longer feels like something you do. It feels like something you are. And now, if you feel ready to anchor this as your path, to no longer treat it as theory, but as a living habit, then declare it, write it, speak it, own it. If you're ready to commit to shifting your reality when you sleep, activate it in the comments. I will shift tonight. Let that declaration be your first act of embodying the habit that will carry you forward, night after night, into the life you've already chosen.